Hi, I'm Sean,
I'm Adam.
and this is SasqWatch.
Grizzly mountain man?
No, the opposite.
Today we're going to be talking about the 2011 film, Letters from the Big Man.
Listen, would you be totally pissed off if we rescheduled for another day?
It is a film that premiered at Sundance Film Festival to, I don't know what kind of buzz.
Did you ever run into anyone suspicious out here? Somebody just didn't belong?
Besides you.
Besides me.
What is Letters from the Big
So
Man?
this is a movie about a woman who's like recently gone through like some sort of breakup. They never really dive too much into what that entailed, but she's moved out. She's on her own. She's like kind of trying to go on this adventure of self-discovery while at the same time continuing her work for the U.S. Forest Department as some sort of ecological surveyor.
I'm pretty sure that her actual job is to go and measure the rainwater. We know that there's been some kind of a forest fire, and that in some capacity she works for the Forest Department, and she's going there to do a survey. There's a lot of like minutia of the logging company or maybe the lumber people. I'm not exactly sure.
And it's not like your traditional, like, you know, you got your faction of people who are trying to save the trees and your faction of people who are trying to destroy the trees. It seems a lot more like real world than that. But yeah, we'll get more into that later when we get to the scene that really drives, I think, what the movie's about, but was difficult for us to engage with.
I mean, the nuts and bolts of what happens is Sarah packs up her bike and goes to the woods, and she meets her friend Penny, who's played by Fiona Dourif, who is the daughter of Brad Dourif, who's Chucky from the Child's Play series. I'm a big fan of the Dourif family over here, so I was really happy to get to see them, or at least Fiona.
Yeah, she is pretty boring in this movie.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that Penny was like an amazing character. I was just happy to see
She really just served as like a character for Sarah to show us that she has like a friend. Like someone to talk to every now and then.
But you know, I mean, you are going to be in the middle of nowhere. I wouldn't stand on principle.
So she basically goes into the woods, and then there's some really pretty nature.
Yeah, this might be the best looking woods. I think we've said that on a movie before, but I think this one might top anything we've seen in terms of just like how pretty the nature looks in this movie.
Yeah, it's all in Oregon. It looks cool. There's some cool fish. I've got multiple notes of just like, look at that cool animal. Look at how pretty that mountain is. And that helps a lot.
It does. It goes a long way.
She's out there, and pretty quickly, like, Bigfoot shows up and starts like making noises. He's smacking the trees with sticks again.
Yeah, we've seen that before. Yeah, but he's hitting the trees with sticks in like a rhythm. He's like visiting her in her dreams, which we've seen recently.
Yes, there's some dream interaction. There's also just your classic, like, peering, leering, kind of like
standing back in the woods and looking out. Although this movie takes it a little step further, we'll get more to that in the Bigfoot breakdown. But
yes. Did we mention that SasqWatch purrs in this film?
Yes, he does.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of subtitles saying SasqWatch purring, and we questioned it the first time, but then it happens so many times throughout the rest of the movie that I'm like, clearly somebody behind this thing wanted SasqWatch to purr.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's really what we got, but that's what it says we got, so.
Kind of a slow, quiet experience. You get to watch Sarah walking. You get to watch Sarah paddling. You get to watch Sarah do yoga in the morning. You get to watch her like set up a hammock, feed the squirrels, measure the little water in the puts her little stick in the water.
Yeah, and it sounds really boring, and in some ways it kind of is, but it's also really alluring to me, like this lifestyle that she has. I actually kind of found myself wanting to be like, oh man, wouldn't that be like a cool job or like a cool life.
So what exactly are you surveying?
Parts of Silver Creek. They've been getting reports of siltation post-logging. Fish can't breathe, blah, blah, blah.
There's just a lot of hippie vibes going on here. People are on the floor a lot. Everyone's drawing things. There's a lot of
She's like also an artist, and so she's like sketching animals.
Oh, her car.
Oh yeah, she colored on her car. She has like the gaudiest car I think I've ever seen in if we were doing like a worst cars in movies and television, she would definitely be up there.
Did you get his number?
No.
Oh, well, what'd you do?
I sketched him.
You sketched him.
There's a subplot in the film of Sarah works for the ranger forest stuff, but she also is a local artist. So we occasionally will check in with her art.
Right.
And sometimes I felt bad laughing at it, but like her car, and at one point we see some of her sketches.
We see a sketch she did of this. This goes well into the next point. While she's out early on in the movie, she meets this guy who she like thinks is like kind of cute or something, and she like wants to draw him. And we see that drawing later, and it's really bad.
Look, whoever it is, I know you're there, so just show yourself.
Yeah, she knows she's being followed through the woods. She thinks maybe it's this hiker guy, but probably not. And she eventually kind of realizes that it's Bigfoot.
She knows she's being followed, and she like is a little bothered, but not as much as I would expect. She reveals to us later she has a gun, so like maybe she feels safer because of that.
It's too peaceful of a
movie. It takes like 3 or 4 nights before she looks genuinely scared about it, and I'm like, really? You thought someone's been tracking you through the woods this whole time, and you're not like, I don't know. She's just like, are you an elk?
You want to be my friend or what?
Yeah, the first half hour, there's just not a lot that happens. It's her experiencing Bigfoot, coming to terms with it, and then at a certain point you go to this building, which I wasn't sure what was in the building, and you meet Barney.
Yeah, it's like their office, I guess, like the forest department's office or something.
But Barney's for the tree cutting.
Oh, Barney. Oh, yeah. She goes to like the construction site, like main building or something for like whatever the lumber thing is they're doing. She talks to Barney.
I am a 3rd-generation logger, sir.
Something tells me the world's not going to stop using forest products anytime soon.
He's the guy who cuts the trees down, but the first thing he starts talking about is like just this hippie stuff where he's like, we need to use less paper, man. I need to get one of those toilet jets, man.
What will you wipe your ass with?
I wouldn't. Oh, use one of those jet toilet thingies,
like that kind of stuff. And then Barney goes to bed and just like gets his sleeping bag out, and he's like on a sleeping bag on the floor. And again, I'm like, what is this building that we're in where there's no beds? Why is
just like
Barney
both sitting on the floor in a sleeping bag? And I'm like, is he really staying here? He doesn't have a cot at least.
If I snore, just throw a pillow at me.
So I'm trying to get my bearings with exactly who Barney is, and then we see Bigfoot smacking. He's doing his log stuff, and I'm like, all right, so he's doing that, and then it hard cuts to the Tempest. And I was like, whoa, where are we now?
Yeah, we're watching a stage production of The Tempest, and it's also a flashback to...
Is it a flashback?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think she just went back to town.
For some reason, I thought it was a flashback from when she first met her ex-boyfriend. Like,
She's there with
she
Penny.
was going there with Penny to see him perform or something. Maybe I just made that up. I don't know. I don't know why they went there.
Now does not speak after the wisest. He shall taste of my bottle if he's never drunk.
But then they discuss The Tempest after, and they're like, well, what do you think it's about? And then Sarah's like, well, magic and nature and magic.
Yeah, I looked up the plot of The Tempest because I haven't read it, and it seemed like it was about
Sean was like, I don't think there's nature and magic. And I was like, I think that it does have those things, but I don't know if that's like all that it's about. I also haven't read it, but it does seem like maybe it's about nature and or at least it includes nature and magic.
We'll make Pat read The Tempest, and he can tell us if that has any ties to this film. Well, regardless, it's a disorienting cut when it just cuts to the playbill of the Tempest.
Right. And then do we go to work like right after that?
No, after that it's just like her checking her emails. She jumps rope. She like does the computer thing. She makes a hammock. Bigfoot stares at her from a distance.
Oh, I've got a lot of notes like for the one when she first meets Sean, who is the other guy she met in the woods that she sketched or whatever.
Wish his name wasn't Sean. It bothered me the whole time.
Spelled the same way too.
Spelled the same
when she first meets Sean, the dialogue just feels like it changes out of nowhere, and all of a sudden it feels like they're in like this like pseudo noir, like kind of like the way they're talking to each other. They're using like one word lines and stuff back and forth really quick, and it feels really weird and snappy and out of place with this like slow meditative movie.
Packing a weapon?
No. What are you?
I have a gun.
I have a camera.
I have a camera.
Okay.
We've seen Bigfoot by this point. None of the characters have, but we have, and like I think he looks kind of good.
Yeah, no, the makeup's cool.
He looks
It's
big,
just
too.
that all he does is stare with that face,
Yeah.
and it's really weird.
At
Bigfoot's
one
clearly
point,
got
she's
magical properties.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely like a dream communicator in this too. I think they even mention it at one point later on. But like having watched The Legend of Bigfoot, where they gave us like the Dreamwalker explanation.
I wonder where those dreams have gone.
I just immediately was like, oh yeah, okay, so this is one of those. This is one of the dream big feet.
Yeah, it can communicate mental powers. You know,
it's doing
projecting.
things like while she's sleeping, it's like coming and like waving its hand over fire and making it like rise and lower, and like it's like talking to her in her dream. Like she can actually understand it in English in the dreams. It'll be like, come and find us, or like whatever.
Dear one, only with your open heart will you know us.
So we're 45 minutes into this movie after watching all of the like nature stuff. It cuts to a scene of business people at a table. And on one side of the table is Agent Petty and Karen Black, who shows up for one single scene.
I think she's like a lawyer.
I don't know. On the other side of the table is the other people. And one side of that table is upset about the forest, and the other one's also upset about the forest.
Yeah, they are in conflict with each other, although it seems like I think both groups have ties to the forest department, but also at least one group is in support of like the lumber company, but I don't think they're necessarily the bad guys here.
So there's litigation. There's
And like,
litigation
Sarah,
of the
our
mountain.
main character, I think works for the people who are on the side of the lumber company, who I think are the side we're supposed to be rooting for.
NGIC wants a temporary research facility. See, I have a very strong incentive to grant that permit, and the impact on the forest would be negligible.
Wait, did I miss something here? No, you didn't.
We don't know what this conflict is, and I think that they say it, but they do it in such like strict terms that they would use. It feels like we missed months of like litigation leading up to this meeting, so
I
I
honestly
don't know
think
what they're talking about, and it results in
I think Sean's character is flat out just insane. I think he's a conspiratorial madman, because all that happens, all that anyone says, is the other man across the table says that the government wants to build an intelligence center. It's the NGIC, I believe, National Ground Intelligence Center. He doesn't say what they're building it for, because he probably doesn't know. He's just like, the military wants to build a building. And immediately, Sean takes that and runs wild with it. He's just like, they're building weapons, man. They're building weapons. They never have enough weapons. What are they gonna? They're gonna get Bigfoot. They're gonna cut him open. They're gonna send him to the Reese's Monkey Lab in New Jersey, and they're gonna be dissecting Bigfoot to make these crazy weapons, man. And I was like, nobody ever said. He said New Jersey. Somebody says there's a monkey lab out there that probably exists. That probably shouldn't in real life, but again, nobody said that they wanted to have anything to do with Bigfoot. They just wanted to build a building.
But the Lakota lady said that.
The Lakota lady doesn't know. You know why? All right, well, let's just jump to the Lakota ladies.
Pretty simple. They want what the big guy's got.
What might that be?
infrasound.
An hour into the movie, that's 15, 20 minutes later.
This, like, bison farm where there's a
bison farm, yeah, a bison farm.
Talking like they've known about Bigfoot for centuries.
Of course,
but like then new people are finding out, and she's like, the military wants to come here because Bigfoot has infrasound, which is something he can use to hide his presence by manipulating subtle energies. The military want to figure out how he uses that because obviously that would be very useful, and they can also use that ability to disorient or cause fear in other people or like calm them down.
That can disorient, induce terror in humans, or make them feel perfectly tranquil and unafraid.
But she works at the buffalo farm. What does that have to do with the military's building purposes?
Lives nearby. I think he went to her to find information because...
Why would he do that? Do you remember the episode of Seinfeld where George is sick and he goes to the alternative healer and he puts his head in the frickin' triangle and all of a sudden he's purple in the ambulance? That's his fault for going there. And that's what Sean did, is that he went to some crazy buffalo lady and she's just like, oh, well, you know, he's got infrasound. They want what he's got. The government is gonna build these weapons. And I was like, nobody said anything about weapons. Nobody said anything about weapons. We don't even know, it could just be like a car parking lot. You don't know what the military needs.
That's the reason why your alphabet soup guys are out there with their Black Hawk helicopters.
Nobody said anything about that. So I don't know. I don't believe that the information that he got has any bearing on reality or the truth. Like, what would the government do with Bigfoot? Well, riddle me that.
I don't know, because I don't know what anyone wants to do in this movie. The government, I feel like, is the people that have the biggest idea of what they want to build something here.
Yeah, they want to build a building. They don't want to build... What are we going to do?
I like to think the big guy's always going to stay one step ahead. But I don't think it's easy for them.
I don't care whether he's wrong or right. I want to know what he wants. I want to know what Sarah wants. I want to know what those people on either side of that table wanted, because there's this conflict that goes through this movie. And, like, they give this one scene to, like, kind of explain it. And it's fast-moving, it's fast-talking, it's a meeting.
Why is Karen Black there? Why would you get Karen Black and put her in one scene that makes no sense with no context?
Well, because it's the most important scene in the movie. It clearly is the most... To me, it seems like. Other than that, there's a personal journey for Sarah that goes separately to all this. But this is, like, the actual plot. And, like, we're 20 minutes away from the end of the movie. And I'm like, Sean... When this movie ends, I'm not going to know what happened. I'm not going to know who won. The only part I can be invested in is Sarah's personal journey, because I don't know what's going on with anything else, because they give us one scene to try and latch onto that. And then from then on, we just kind of know that, like, Sarah and Sean kind of have this relationship thing maybe starting, but also they're on opposite sides of some conflict that is very nebulous to us.
They pay me to be here.
Right. And we appreciate you coming. Actually, I was wondering if maybe we could meet somewhere.
After the meeting, they kind of like flirt and walk and talk to her car, and I laughed at her car again. And then they made a date.
He's like, oh, could you do that for me? And it's just like, okay, man, you're trying too hard now.
Nice deer. Who made that? Oh, really? Will you do me one?
57 minutes in, it's the dream meeting, and that's when you hear Bigfoot's voice.
Yeah, he speaks to her in her dreams and basically says, like, you need to, like, find us, and...
It's just more hippie gumbo. It's just like, you open your heart, man. Only with an open heart can you embrace the us, man. If you want more of Bigfoot, you've got to find us with your feelings.
I don't think this movie has as much of like a hippie message as you seem to think, but neither one of us can really know for sure, because I don't think either one of us understand what the movie's trying to like say on the ecological side of things.
I don't think that the scripts understand. I think it's pro-nature to a point where it doesn't even understand what the anti-nature people are coming from. Like,
in some ways it feels like they were just like, I know that these things are all a part of the discussion that people are having with conservation, and they just threw them all in there, but maybe they don't fully understand, so they couldn't explain it to us very well. I just don't know.
It is with the new light in your heart that you will see that you will feel, that you will be.
Then I think you get more of Sean for a minute. He goes and talks to Barney, and that was a confusing conversation because Sean and Barney seem to not like each other, but they're both hippie people. They both love camping and sleeping in bags.
Well, see, but Sarah and Barney are on the same side of whatever the conflict is, and Sean and Barney are not.
Somewhere along the line, Sarah starts doing watercolor paintings of Bigfoot, and then that's when Sean goes to the buffalo
They're trying
farm.
to, like, maybe kind of make the relationship thing work, although he's clearly way more into it than her, and he tries a lot of really crappy pickup lines and flirting with her that, like, really shouldn't land, and most of it didn't seem to, but...
Eventually it does, because this all builds to Sean and Sarah having what I think was porch sex, and Bigfoot stared and watched them the entire time.
Yeah, we got the voyeur Bigfoot again.
But it's confusing because when you cut to Bigfoot
we don't
watching...
we don't know what Bigfoot wants in this movie either.
Yeah.
So we don't know how he feels about this.
Because it's easy to say, like, well, Bigfoot's leery. Like, so, all right.
Is he jealous? Does he not care? Does he, like...
because I swear, I rewound it, he has the same face watching them have sex on the porch as he does later watching Sean throw up over this, like, what is that thing, that parking, whatever that is. He's like, grabs one and just hurls into the ground. Bigfoot's same exact face just watching from the woods. And you're like, what do you want, man? After Sarah hooks up with Sean, there's that scene where he wanders around her house and he finds her art of Bigfoot.
Oh, yes. And he's very deeply offended because he has a flashback.
Yeah, the flashback happens, but for just a minute, it feels like he sees her art and thinks it's so bad that he has to leave.
Yeah.
He just, like, starts booking it.
It does look like that.
She's like, aren't you going to stay and hang out? He's like, no, I've got work at 10 a.m. tomorrow. I'm going.
It's like still light out.
Yeah, he's just like booking it to the car, and I'm laughing. I'm just like, he saw her sketch and thinks she's weird.
And then it cuts to this flashback of him as a child riding through the woods on his bike.
Yeah.
And then he, like, just sees Bigfoot just sitting on a rock, and that appears to scar him deeply, and then he runs away, and that's the end of the flashback.
Yeah.
So we don't really know how he feels about that now. We know in that moment he was scared, but, like, does he like Bigfoot? Does he not like Bigfoot? Does he think it's special? Is he afraid? Like, I don't know.
He spends the rest of the film then trying to capture evidence of Bigfoot. But you're like, but why?
Right.
Why do you want evidence of Bigfoot if your whole thing is to keep people out of the woods? She knows it exists. At this point, she knows that Bigfoot exists because the next thing that happens is she has gained the confidence to enter her art into the local art gallery.
Oh, yeah, she does do that.
So, you prepared to meet your critics?
And that's when you get my personal favorite scene, which is she's at the art gallery with Barney, and he asks her about the Bigfoot reality space.
Where do they go? Where do they go when they're not here? I mean, they choose you. They decide when you can see them. They know what you're thinking, and they decide.
They talk about how Bigfoot kind of exists within another reality, and he can kind of phase into this one, kind of like fairies and, like, old fairy lore, or, like, something like that. And he can, like, choose when he's seen. And, like, while they're saying that, we see in the background, like, in the trees, like, Bigfoot just kind of materializes through the trees. And we're like, oh, okay, he can kind of, like, Predator-style cloak himself, I guess. Also, we didn't talk about it, but earlier in the movie, she's sitting at this creek, and I don't know if she's thinking about Bigfoot or if Bigfoot is projecting himself into her mind, but she's just sitting and staring, and then this big superimposed Bigfoot like pops up as though he's standing in front of a sunrise.
So then after the local art gallery, which I don't know how to articulate what Barney's asking, but he's asking some big questions at the art gallery.
This is about the time I wrote, this is really going to be over in 20 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's a ticking clock, and you're like, what is the conflict of this film?
They find a Bigfoot print.
Yeah, Sean measures the Bigfoot print, and then that's when he throws up, and we're just like, what does this man feel?
And that's when I wrote, I really don't know what anyone in this movie wants. That's going to hurt my enjoyment overall.
No, and then the whole movie, you're kind of wondering, like, she's communicating with Bigfoot via, like, dreams and noises, and she
like,
kind of knows he's
stuff.
there.
Like, she sends him that meat, and then he, like, she goes back later, and the wrapper from the meat is, like, folded into an origami, like, crane. I'm just like, oh, so Bigfoot knows origami. That's interesting.
Doesn't look human.
We're building to the big meeting scene. Yeah, yes.
They are building to the scene where they meet.
Yeah, the scene is
I wouldn't call it the big meeting scene.
She just pulls up in the truck and is like, oh, hey. And he's just sitting right there.
Yeah, it's much similar to like when the guy sees him as a kid. He's just kind of sitting on a rock waiting for her. And that's about it. She sees him and then she leaves, right? Or like he leaves? Or...
She sees him, then the sudden the meat thing happens. And
okay.
Then Sean goes and has the hair tested somewhere, and the doctor lady is like, this is not, I don't know what this hair is. It's not anything that I know. It could be a new species. But Sean already knows, because he met Bigfoot as a boy, so I don't know what he's doing.
What he's trying to learn. Well, he's probably trying to get some evidence that there's a new species.
And that's when we hear the voice of SasqWatch again over some art. And we get some more of that gumbo I was talking. Feel us with your heart. And then...
yeah, and the best part is it's very similar to the I Love You Mom.
Yeah.
Like the Legend of SasqWatch.
Do you want to say it?
Yeah, it's... So she's...
She's on the porch.
I think she's already had her meeting with SasqWatch, right?
Yes.
She's like, can feel his presence nearby, and she's just like, I wish I had a man like you.
You must see us. Feel us. With your heart.
I wish I had a man like you.
I wish I had a man like you.
I wish I had a man like you.
Yeah, that's the man that Sarah's after.
Lives in the woods.
Lives in the woods.
You see him once a year, maybe. She's looking for like a low commitment, distance kind of thing.
I love that we have the quote, I wish I had a man like you. And then not even 10 minutes later, he snorts like a pig sometimes.
Oh, I wrote that too. Oh yeah, she says that about him. She's like, he snorts, so she wants a man who snorts like a pig sometimes. It's really the whole package is what she's looking for.
He snorts like a pig sometimes. I mean, he makes all these other sounds.
And then at the very end of the movie, they throw some like brief drama where Sean hides a camera in her like rafters
to try and capture photo evidence of Bigfoot, and like her friend Penny like sees it, and then they take it down, and she goes and confronts him about it.
Yeah, and then she decides
to
give Barney her stuff, and she's like, Barney, I'm going on at least a year-long odyssey.
Yeah, around like the world or the country.
I think just the woods, just those woods. She's like, I'm going to go into the woods for a while. At some point, the conversation...
I got the sense that she was moving like in a further area to try and gather evidence all over of like big feet, and she wants to like gather evidence to prove they exist to take it to academia.
I don't know. I think she wants to go out and just like, I think she's
specifically
trying to hook
she
up
was
with
gathering
Bigfoot.
Research to take to academia.
I don't believe her. I think that she's trying to go out and hook up with Bigfoot. That's what I think the end of the movie is her just like...
No, because she decides, like, she doesn't end up, like, getting with Sean. Like, she kind of makes the decision that, like, she does want to be single and, like, for a while and, like, do some more soul searching to find her and, I guess, find Bigfoot, who she wants a man. I guess, to some degree, you're probably right.
He knows what we're capable of.
Maybe it's time he knows what good we're capable of, too.
Well, then she's talking to Barney about leaving her stuff with him, and then Barney gets a phone call from Jeff, who's some guy who cuts trees down.
Oh, yeah.
And he's talking about bear's stuck in the tree, and Barney says something along the lines of, "Do bears have shoulders?" And I was like, he said bears don't have shoulders.
Yeah,
I was
he
like,
did say that.
Do bears not have shoulders? I don't know. Do you know if bears have
I
shoulders?
meant to look that up. I mean, I assume they've got like shoulder blades. I doubt they move the same way as like ours do.
We can make Pat
Because he
figure
said
that
it like
out.
slung something over its shoulder and walked away on 2 feet or something, and the dude got footage of it, Jeff, the man we haven't met until now.
Yeah. So that we were watching, we're like, this movie has 5 minutes left. Is this the climax? Yes. The climax of the film is that some guy
Grizzly
named
bears have well-developed shoulder muscles for digging and turning over rocks.
There you go. Barney doesn't know anything about bears. We've uncovered that. So yeah, they drive, Sarah and Barney drive out to Jeff, and Jeff is like, it's gone now. This mama bear who I got on my phone, it's Bigfoot, showed up and got the bear cub and walked away. And Jeff's like, I think I saw something really special. And Sarah's like, yes, you did. And then she leaves and goes into the woods. And then there's a really random scene where Sean is flirting with Penny, and he asks Penny out on a date, and Penny's like, okay. And we were like, why?
Yeah, we're like, why do so many people like this Sean guy?
You sensitive guys. I have 0 patience.
What about darts? You like darts?
And then the very end of the movie is Sarah hiking into the woods, and then she sees Bigfoot, and Bigfoot rubs his big tummy, and then the credits roll.
Not to mention, it's the ugliest damn bear I'd ever seen.
It doesn't really feel like anyone's writing any letters.
No letters were written. I was expecting Bigfoot to write a letter. That's what I thought was going to happen.
I thought before the movie that she was going to be writing like those letters that you see in like the inspirational self-journey things where she's like writing letters to nobody basically. And also early on I called it. I was like, because I called that she is the child in the like magical Bigfoot child adventure. Like, we're starting to get these like tropes that the different movies fit into. You got like your slasher foot, you got like your family friend foot, and that one kind of includes like the kid who has the special friendship with Bigfoot. And to some degree, like something like this or Prudence kind of uses that in a different way, but like still has like the me and Bigfoot have a magical special connection kind of deal, and he can talk to me in my dreams or whatever. This one, I recognized that it fit that, and based on the previous ones I've seen, I was like, okay, she's either going to meet Bigfoot very soon, this was like 20 minutes into the movie or 15 or something, or she's not going to meet him until like the very end, and then she didn't meet him soon, and she didn't meet him until like the very end. So I felt good about calling that.
We will keep your people grounded while they reach for expansion.
These are the things I ponder. I'm really unclear what this movie wanted me to walk away with. Like, it's so lost in its own, aura, its own like its own rainbow.
It's kind of a nice little like green aura. It's just like a very confusing one.
I don't think there's really any conflict in this movie. I really don't. I don't think anybody really does anything of any importance. And the end of the movie is her just like going on a really long hike.
I don't know why I liked this movie as much as I did. I didn't love it or anything. I don't think it's like a good movie necessarily. It's definitely not a great movie. But it's really pretty. There's a thing I'd like to mention from the technical side of things. That there was a scene where she was hiking through this little valley with a little creek in it. It was really pretty. And they started the shot by aiming up at the sky, like towards the sun. And you could tell in that moment with the light, the way that it was coming through, that it was raining really hard. And normally, like, you can't pick up real rain on camera very well. And so they use fake rain for movies and shows. But this one was clearly using like a lot of natural light throughout the movie, throughout the filming. I mean, you could tell with the locations they were in. Like you said, it'd be very difficult to be setting up lights and stuff out there. The way that they open on that rain, and they've got the rain sound effect going, the way that they open with that shot, so you can tell it's raining really hard before they move down to her, like walking through the valley, it works really well. And then also they have water in it, so you can see it hitting the water too, to like play in. I just think it's one of the better uses of real rain I've ever seen in a movie, so they get points for that.
I do think they get some points for having a really pretty, like, piece of forest they shot in. But I think when you look at some of the interior scenes, like the business table scene,
are pretty boring.
Pretty
it looks
flat.
Like, I mean, they look like I would imagine those buildings look.
But I'm watching a movie here.
Right.
I'm watching a movie. I don't know what is going on. I think this is this is one of the more confusing films that we have covered, as far as I'm concerned. I mean,
it's trying to be a little higher concept than most of the... Not really, but like it's trying to do and say a little bit more than a lot of the other ones we've covered. So that's nice. And I think maybe for some people they pull that off. But I don't know that this is one of the least accessible movies I think that we've watched. I felt like the experience of this movie for me was more like finding a little grove in the woods and then being like, this is really pretty. And then like, for some reason, having to sit there for like 2 hours and just like not have anyone to like talk to or anything. That's kind of what the experience was like.
I think that there's a lot of like interesting stuff in here. I just think it's a big puddle of thoughts. It's
I agree.
A thought puddle of a film. Oh, the editing, I laughed at.
Yeah, there was some really silly editing. There's like this one scene that I specifically have for Pat to show you because it's really jarring. It's probably a couple even.
When he's driving into the flashback.
Yeah. It's like the later Saw movies, not the more recent ones, but the later. It's similar to that. Lily Rabe does a good job in her role as Sarah.
I think that
she's kind of a boring character to some degrees, but I think that she's acted well. She feels like a real person. I bought that like she wasn't afraid or like frail out in the woods or anything like that. She doesn't look like a particularly like physically imposing or strong woman, but she doesn't look like weak or anything. Like I buy that she is and can do all of these things, and I have to assume that had something to do with like that actress or someone in the production side like having her learn a bit about what her character can actually do. Like it felt like I bought that she could make that bike, I guess. I thought it was weird, but I'm like, I don't know, she seems like the kind of girl who could make that bike.
The problem is every character, whether it's Bigfoot, whether it's Sarah, whether it's Barney, they're the same person at the beginning and the end of the movie.
Yeah.
There is no change that happens. There is no journey here.
It seems like there is for her, but it doesn't seem very like unique or like
starts the movie hiking, ends the movie hiking.
She starts the movie looking for solace after her breakup and ends the movie like
looking for Bigfoot in the woods.
For Bigfoot in the woods. Yes, I guess that's more or less true.
Well, what the hell are you gonna eat, sir?
I will rate this movie with 3 big feet.
Are you serious?
Yep. It
3
really
big
pretty. Had some decent acting, and it looked really pretty. It just that does it for me. Hey, look, she's lighting this citronella coil. They didn't have to do that. They didn't have to do this part. And then in a minute she'll like make a comment about the mosquitoes. They didn't have to think about that. How many other of our movies have had that kind of thing where they're like doing things to like prepare for bugs? They're doing things that like you actually should be doing when you're doing survival stuff out in the woods. Like I mean,
sure, if you really love like hiking, then this will be something to do in between hikes. But as far as like, is this the movie of it all? I'm just like 1.5 big feet. That's what you get. You got a decent cast, and Barney's Barney made me like question reality for a little bit, but I think the weapons of it all, man, I think this whole thing is just like some pipe dream fantasy land that I just don't think there's anything at the end of the day here. I think it's just a weird mashup nonsense blast.
There's cuddly dragonfly magical, and there's something else.
First thing I noticed about the Bigfoot in this film is that he was fat. He was kind of a fatty.
Big belly. And then beyond that, as far as like how he lives, he kind of does stalking behavior when he's following her around, almost like a hunter would prey on something.
The title and it seems like Sarah seems to be dead set on saying that Bigfoot is a man in this movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're unclear about that, but this movie does seem to posit that Bigfoot is a male presence.
Yeah. Lots of your classic waiting and watching from the trees. He likes to hit the trees with like a log to make noises, which we've heard before.
Yes. Can confirm Bigfoot eats grapes.
Yes, he also purrs.
Yes.
Yeah, Sasquatch purring was a pretty common note in the
this is the first time I think
the
we've
text.
run into that.
Yeah, I don't think we've heard roars. We've heard growls. I don't think we've heard any purring.
Beyond that, Bigfoot does have the power to communicate via dreams.
Yes, he is Dream Walker again. They didn't say that, but might as well be. He seems to exhibit some sort of powers during this time. Like he can manipulate that fire, and like he can communicate with people.
Does have fire casting abilities, or at least he makes the fire, puts it out.
Yeah, he
right?
can control it. Maybe he's putting it out to not start a forest fire. I don't know.
Bigfoot does communicate via. He leaves those like circles in the yard. He leaves Sarah those like
he leaves
patterns,
like, messages and things. He knows how to do origami. So he can fold that little meat package into a nice little crane.
That's big. I feel like that's a big...
Yeah, so he's got some dexterous fingers. He
can communicate in English via dreams, at least in the dream world, in that reality.
He may exist between two realities and be able to transition between the two and also reveal himself and disappear to whomever he wishes.
There are some alleged properties, which we've debated, but certain characters in the film seem to believe that Bigfoot has infrasound and can manipulate energies to...
subtly to like make people afraid or calm people down or disorient people.
Cloak himself.
Yeah, all those things.
Oh, he also eats meat, too. He eats that...
Yeah, because he eats the pork, so she's an omnivore in this one, which, makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, most of us are omnivores.
Sarah seems to believe that he feels more deeply than we ever could.
Snorts like a pig.
And sometimes he snorts like a pig.
You've got to be kidding.
Welcome to SasqWatch, where we crunch the numbers. So in our movie today, Letters from the Big Man, we think that we've got one or two Sasquatches, probably two, because we see one in the flashback scene with Sean when he sees one as a child, and that one looks kind of old, and then the one we see later doesn't look quite the same. So yeah, we think we've got two here. This movie takes place around like Silver Creek, Oregon, in like southern Oregon. Bigfoot is in this film for 2 minutes and 46 seconds. The one or two big feet in this movie kill 0 people. They don't seem very bloodthirsty at all. Numbers crunched.
I had fun this episode. As always, I hope that you guys enjoyed it, had fun with us. Maybe you've seen this movie. Let us know whose side you're on as far as its value.
If you have like a foot in the door of like conservation or anything like that, maybe you could help to enlighten us. Maybe we should have read through the Wikipedia plot, but I don't want to take too much extra information before we talk about this. But I mean, sometimes we like to watch the director's commentary and stuff like that, but I don't know. I don't want to I shouldn't have to read a summary of the movie to know what they were talking about.
I would bet all the money in my pocket that if I listened to the commentary, that I would listen to a man who loves nature talk to me about like
how they got all these shots and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's such a flower power experience. I feel like I've got it. I feel like I know Christopher Munch. I think he genuinely believes in Bigfoot and probably like cries at weddings. That's fine. But you know what I'm kind of hankering for is a Yeti.
Another Yeti?
Yeah, let's get another Yeti movie in next.
We just did like 3 in a row. I don't even think we should be doing any more Yeti movies.
Well, how about a different kind of Yeti?
What do you mean a different kind of Yeti?
How about a Yeti as big as a building?
Well, like King Kong or something?
Kinda. Why don't you guys join us on the next episode when we watch Yeti, Giant of the 20th Century.
Okay.
Yeti, der Schneemensch kommt. Der Gigant des 20. Jahrhunderts.
SasqWatch.
The origami was definitely the most surprising new thing.
Yeah, origami. I think of this Bigfoot as kind of like a forest wizard.
Yeah, definitely a wise, old, shaggy guy.
Sensitive.
Mm-hmm.